For those of you on the live stream, we will be beginning in just one moment. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
All right, I'm on. Hey, hi Patrick, how are you?
Hey Liz, doing all right.
I like your painting in the back.
Oh, thanks. Thanks.
Judge, can I ask you a question before you start?
You may.
Did you just hear of a 5.5 earthquake in Ojinaga today at 9:15?
I had not yet heard that.
Yeah, it was a 3.8 here.
Judge Mike Flores from El Paso just called to tell me and said he felt it.
No kidding.
And
Yeah,
Well,
I didn't either. And evidently there was one earlier up at Mentone.
that's amazing. Well, I'm sure my phone is blowing up. I haven't looked at it in the last couple of minutes, so I'm just going to let it sit there
Me too.
until we finish here so I don't get distracted. All right, we've got a few more people coming in. Let me let everybody else in from the waiting room. Good morning, everyone, all our newcomers.
Morning, Judge.
Morning.
I will let you know that we are streaming to the YouTube page. So anyone who wants to watch the training but is not a lawyer and so was not allowed to join us is free to watch the live stream.
Okay.
Let's start off just with a little introduction for the live stream people. My name is Roy Ferguson. I am the district judge of the 394th Judicial District. We have hosted many trainings. This is probably my 20 plus training for lawyers and judges on how to use Zoom virtual courtroom hearings. Let's start off if we could, and we'll do a little discussion here about what you can see. Now, some of you may be in speaker view, some of you may be in gallery view. So I want you to look up to the top of your screen, and when you move your cursor, a word will appear that says either gallery view or speaker view. I want you to click that and see the difference. And what you're going to find in gallery view is you can see everyone all the time. And so you can watch the other lawyers, you can watch whomever you wish when people are speaking. But when you're in speaker view, it will probably pop the person who is speaking into the main frame. So to do a little test here, for those of you in speaker view, you probably see my face filling the screen. Ms. Rogers, why don't you say something for us and let you take over the main speaker screen?
Okay. I'm not, when I put my cursor, I'm not seeing the words that you're telling me, although I hit it on you and it went to your face, but I don't have the opportunity that you just told me.
All right. When you look up at the, let me see if I know what you have on your screen.
I see it. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
If you're in a different setting, sometimes you have to click what looks like a Rubik's Cube up there.
Got it.
And if you hover over that, you'll see the different view.
Okay.
I'm good. I see it.
All right. So you can flip back and forth depending on your preferences. I tend during hearings to keep it on gallery view just so I can keep an eye on everybody and know what it is that's going on. I want to make sure that no one's talking to a witness, for example. So I'll typically keep it there. When I record and when I stream, it always seems to do speaker view no matter what setting I choose, unless I go into my options and tell it to record all three different ways. So when you are on the YouTube watching, or anyone else who's watching, they're going to see it in the speaker view no matter what setting I have on my screen. Now, one really preliminary thing is the way that you are set up is going to be crucial for the quality of the signal you send. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm now sitting where I would probably sit if I weren't constantly changing things for purposes of this. I would be about this close to my screen so that I fill the screen. A good comparison is you can see Mr. Escudero down there. He's filling much of his screen. Look at his shoulders. He's filling probably more than 50% of the screen. And now pull back and let's look, say, at Mr. Gabaldon. He's a little bit further back like this. So when you're in the gallery view, he's really pretty small. And that can be difficult when you have witnesses who are testifying or when it's your turn to argue. So if you can adjust your computer so that it may feel like you're really close on your screen, but I will tell you, to the rest of us, you're not. Ms. Rogers, you're so far back that you're very shaded from the light. That is because on my screen, there's a window to your left.
Yeah.
And when you have a window in your frame, it will darken everything else, trying to make up for the brightness of that window. So it's a really good idea to make sure that you don't have backlighting. Look at the coordinator's image. You can see she's got light coming from one side, but her whole face is pretty well lit up. Once again, Ms. Espinosa's probably got the perfect setting here. Her whole face is lit up. She looks great. I will show you there's one glare behind her on the wall that is probably throwing off a little bit of the shadow. So now look at Ms. Rogers. That is absolutely perfect. That is perfect lighting. You could probably stand to be a little closer when it's your turn to argue. You don't need to do that most of the time. When you are positioning witnesses and you're practicing for your hearings, there are two ways to do it, and I will probably control which way it is. They can start like this so we can see their face. If it becomes a concern to me or anyone else that they may have something in their hands or their lap, they may be referring to something while they're testifying, I may ask you to pull the witness back away so that I can see their hands in their lap while they're testifying. I've only seen that be an issue once. It was not in one of my hearings, but the person ended up sitting at a table pretty far back so their hands were visible because it did look like they might have been referring to some notes or flipping pages on a pad. So these are just basic setup ideas for you. Mr. Escudero, did you just signal me?
Yeah, quick question. So are you expecting our witnesses to be with us physically? Like I have a client who lives in, I think, San Antonio, who's got a court date in Marfa. Can she appear by this as well, or does she have to be in my office?
I'm not compelling anyone to be in the same room with anyone.
All right.
So my expectation is that they will log into the waiting room. Let's talk about witnesses. That's a great segue.
Okay.
Our polished politician knows exactly how to transition from one topic to another. All right, let's talk about witnesses. There's been some consternation among the bar on, well, how are we going to guide our witnesses and how are we going to prepare our witnesses? Okay, that's your job to prepare your witnesses the same as you would with any hearing. I am not setting this up so that you don't have to do those things or I do them for you. That is not how this works. We're all changing a little bit the way we do things. Witnesses are still yours to prepare. So I presume that you're going to have Zoom conferences with your witnesses one-on-one to prepare them on how to testify, to give them the rules that you received in my letter. You can't have anything in your lap. You can't be texting. You can't have someone off camera whispering to you what to do. You're testifying as if you were on the stand in the courtroom and practice with them. I do not believe you have to be physically in the same room as your witness while they're testifying. I see no value to that at all, because then I have to be able to see you also. I have to make sure that you're not holding up a note that says yes or no, back green, red, whatever. I don't think any of you would do that, but we all know that there are lawyers who would. And so if you're in the room with a witness, we have to position you so that you're both on camera. You may be thinking, well, I'll have my phone and I'll log in on phone while they're in on the tablet. That's fine, but I will tell you that most of the time you try to do that, you're going to be getting feedback loops. And so it's going to be very tricky to make sure this one's off and this one's on and the speaker here and the mic there. And it exposes you to risk and them to you. So I'm encouraging people, make this the new normal for now. Practice with your witnesses on Zoom. Make sure their Zoom works. Remember, if they're not on camera or they don't have a notary in the room with them, they're not going to testify. Make sure that's clear to everyone. If they're not on camera where I can see and identify, the other party can see and make sure they're who they say they are, or they have a notary public in the room who can check their ID and swear them in person, they will not be testifying in our hearings. This is not reversible error. This is on you. Because if you have a witness you call and they don't show up, they don't get to testify. That's not on us, it's on you. So make sure your witnesses are ready to go. Make sure that their equipment works. And if not, if they're crucial, get a notary public in the room with them so they can testify. This is going to be, it is a standing order in my court. So let's make sure everyone knows you got to have a witness. Now, some of you may know that's already the rule. Now, I know there are courts all over the state that just say onto the phone with witnesses, raise your right hand. Is your right hand in the air? Okay, don't put it down until I tell you. Okay, is your hand up? And they swear them in. Really not valid oath. That is not properly sworn. So yes, people do it. There are judges doing it right now on Zoom. I don't plan to be one of those. The Supreme Court's going to have to issue another emergency declaration lifting that portion of the oath. I'm not even sure they're allowed to do that because the oath is what it is. But for now, that's my rule. So prep your witnesses, practice with your clients, make sure they follow the rules. Remember, with witnesses, you have to tell them they are not permitted to watch the live stream. Now, what I have done as a standing order is I am invoking the rule as to witnesses in every hearing as a blanket invocation. So witnesses will not be in the room until it's their turn to testify. They will remain in the waiting room, which I can see. I know who's there. And then if, Ms. Wilson said, Your Honor, we want to call Ms. Espinosa to testify at this time, I will look over. I will admit her from the waiting room. She will pop into the room. I will tell her to raise her right hand. I'll administer the oath, and then we will have our question and answer.
Your
When
Honor,
it comes, oh, yes, ma'am.
may I interrupt? Will this help us get our computers in the jail? Will we have y'all already done some of this?
We did that years ago.
Because they don't let us bring them in.
No, in our jails, unless they're local jails, meaning Brewster and Presidio, we've already got this set up. When it comes to Brewster and Presidio, I believe the public defender office, and Mr. McShane said he was going to be here, but I don't see him. I'm seeing if anyone's in the waiting room, and they are not. Let's double check one more time. No. Mr. McShane, are you here? Under a name I don't recognize? No. All right. I believe that they're working right now to install the software where they need to install it in the
We already
jail.
have.
Okay. So,
Okay, but for us to practice with our client, as you're suggesting, means we have to take our computer in and practice on Zoom. And I've had big problems with any of that with Presidio County particularly. But I think you'll help me back that up.
we'll keep working on that. I thought that the process of all jails in my district was already underway. We have the ability to do this from any jail that will create this system. So we could plead, because they've lifted the venue requirements, the location requirements at the Supreme Court level, I can plead someone from Texarkana
Okay.
if they can get on camera.
Okay.
So that all of those restrictions were lifted in the third, maybe it was, Supreme Court emergency order. Y'all can correct me if it's the wrong number, but they lifted that so we wouldn't have this problem anymore and we could keep these cases moving. Part of it is because there are people being held on misdemeanor failure to appear warrants all around the state. And if we could get those hearings, bond hearings could happen and those people could be released. So very quickly, I think they wanted to lift that restriction to protect people who are trapped in jail all over the state. I have not issued a standing order for my criminal defense lawyers on misdemeanor detentions. My understanding is our magistrates are doing a pretty good job making sure that people are not held indefinitely on misdemeanors. When it's brought to my attention that there's a problem, I've just addressed it one-on-one. We just don't have as many inmates as some of the cities do. I believe, Mr. Gabaldon may know for El Paso, but I believe there are some cities that are passing standing orders saying that no one will be held more than 48 hours on a misdemeanor warrant unless these exceptions apply. Has El Paso done that for El Paso County jails?
I believe so. They're moving pretty quick to trying to alleviate the stress on the jails of new people that are getting arrested. I don't know what the days are, but they're moving fast.
They have some rule.
Right.
Okay, good. Well, if my defense attorneys here on the call have a problem with someone who is being held indefinitely, or we need to address a bond issue, remember, number one, you go to the original magistrate if there's not a charge, or you have to file a writ that gets it to my attention or brings it within my jurisdiction. Otherwise, you're going to have to go back to the original court. The original magistrate for people who are not yet indicted or charged in county court. I do believe that our county judges and JPs also all have licenses provided by the OCA with Zoom, so they should be able to do it the exact same way I would. You shouldn't have to do a writ if you can get the magistrate on the line. Save yourselves that effort. Call the state, see if you can work something out, get it done by the original magistrate. Save yourself the effort. So, all right. Now, Ms. Wilson, I'm going to use you as one more example for initial work. We're only seeing part of your head. So
Okay, well,
that's a great, there you go.
that better?
That
Okay,
is much better. Now I can see your mouth when you talk.
okay.
So, all right. Now, one more thing. Let's look at Ms. Espinosa. Can you rotate your phone 90 degrees? There we go. Now she fills the screen. So remember, whenever you see it this way, if it's a witness, tell your witnesses and clients, rotate their phones, set them down. Don't try to hold them and make us all seasick. One last thing, they do have digital backgrounds, virtual backgrounds. A lot of people are using those if they're concerned about family, stuff in the background. I will tell you, there's one very funny thing. If you're using a virtual background and you tilt the camera so that it shifts up, it does not look like the virtual background has moved. It looks like you fell out of your chair or off of a cliff. It's hilarious, and everyone will have a laugh at your expense. So keep in mind, if you have a virtual background, it needs to be a planted camera. Don't mess with it. One other thing, if you keep yourself off of mute when nothing's happening that you would have to speak in, I want to remind you that these these microphones are very sensitive. You don't have to make the sound right in front of the microphone for the camera to pick that sound up, and that includes things that sound like bodily functions. So be aware, we hear everything when your microphone is not muted. So last time I'm going to mention that. All right, let's talk a little bit about our hearings. We haven't had a problem with arguments. It's been very easy. Ms. Rogers was in a hearing with me yesterday where we had, 7 different people. And we really had no problems with people talking over or interfering. It was very smooth. So I'm not really concerned about that. However, what we are seeing is that people are not practicing enough on how to use documents. I want to give you an example. In an argument yesterday, I had something a little bit like this. Well, Judge, under this section 104, it says this, but if you look at 108, it says that. And under 551, they have to do this with the agenda, which is attached as Exhibit H, and the other one's attached as Exhibit I2. All right, I have a tablet in my lap. How many of those exhibits did I see in the course of that argument? The answer was 0, because you can't switch back and forth fast enough. And so instead, I put the tablet aside and I came up here and I started trying to switch screens to read them in real time, which means I lost the video because I'm now out of that window. All right. I want to show you one way that you can do this, and it's really effective. It requires you to slow down. That's not a bad thing. So don't be worried about speed. I'm not going to cut you off. But everyone look at the bottom. You see the green square that says share screen? All right. I want you to hit that button and keep listening to me as you look. It should open a window. Don't hit any of those yet. At the top, it has basic and advanced. And then it shows every window you have open, plus a few more like whiteboard, iPhone, iPad. All right. If what you wanted to do was share an entire screen, you would click one of those and it would pop that screen up for everyone to see. Okay. What I want to show you now, you can do that on your own, is click advanced. There's something on the left that says portion of screen. That's what I'm going to show you now. So close this little sub window and get back to our regular window so I can show you what we're talking about. I'm going to click on my side, portion of screen, and I'm going to hit share. And I will tell you that what it's going to do, if it'll allow me to do it here, portion of screen. All right. It's going to allow me to have a little green box. Does everyone see something strange coming from me yet? No? All right. Let's change over to a document. Here we go. Now, is that working? Someone unmute and tell me whether you see my screen.
We do. We see your screen, but we see the whole screen, not kind of like it's taking up the whole background.
Do you see a little box?
No.
No.
The only box we see is live on YouTube at the top corner. That's it.
Okay, I'm not sure what that means. So hold on one second. It should just be showing you a little window.
Now it is. It's all black on the outside, and what we're seeing is just a portion of what we were seeing earlier.
All right, so yeah, that's probably because I hadn't shaped it correctly yet. But what you see right now should be federal, and it has different emergency phone numbers and websites. Is that what you see?
Yes.
Yeah, it shows us 5 after federal.
Yes.
All right, so I could then do this.
Okay, now, excuse me, but I can't see the numbers because they're behind all of our screens, all of our boxes on the right-hand side.
All right, so it's not showing you the whole thing.
Right.
But if you minimize, it will. Minimize your screen on the right side.
Are you talking about me? No, you're talking about her.
No, I was talking about Liz. I'm sorry.
You can
Minimize.
move that window, Liz, out of the way.
Okay.
Similarly, at the top of the screen, there's a drop down that says view options, and you can change the zoom ratio.
Okay, got it. Okay, 50. Yes, now yeah, but that makes it.
Got it?
Okay,
All right.
I got it. Thank you.
So what I had done, let's see what happens here. All right, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pause share and freeze it right there. And while it's paused, I'm going to open something else. And I'm going to position the window where I want it. Okay. Now I'm going to say, okay, Ms. Witness, I'm going to show you a map of Alpine, and I want you to show me the route that you took when you went from the Family Dollar to Bella Dental.
Okay, I'm not seeing anything. That
You
you're
will.
doing.
It's frozen.
Oh,
Now I'm going to resume share, and I
Okay.
want you to tell me when you see the map.
Got it.
Got it.
All right. Now, I can set it up so a witness can annotate. All right. So I'm going to ask the witness on their screen, would you draw for me the route that you took from the Family Dollar to Bella Dental? And they're going to be able to do what you're about to see. Okay, I started at the Family Dollar and I went behind the Porters and I crossed over on Lockhart. And then I realized I was in the wrong place. So I went around. I couldn't do that because it was one way. Okay, I'm going to screw this up. And then I went into Bella Dental like that. Do y'all see the route?
Yes.
Okay. You can then change the color and say, well, why didn't you go this route, which would seem to have been a more direct route to where you were going? Okay. And they can say, well, there was a stalled car somewhere. Where was it? Well, the stalled car was right there on the one-way. And so you're saying, so right here, there was a stalled car. Is that what you're saying? You see where I put the word car?
Yes.
So you can have a big exchange with someone right here, and you can say, well, let's flip over and see it this way. Right? So you can really work with people well on this. When you're done, there will be a button at the top that says save. And when you save it, it's going to save it as a screenshot of just the box that you shared. And you can say, Judge, I'm going to take this. I want to identify this as Defense Exhibit 6, and I want to offer it at this time. Okay. It can be offered as its own screenshot, right? So I'm going to save one now. I'm going to turn off my sharing. Now I'm going to offer that exhibit. Okay. Let's assume the judge admits it. Here's what we're going to do next. I want you to go to chat.
Okay. Which is where, please?
It's in that same list
Got it.
of icons.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to show you how you can submit something that you're offering to the entire room. All right. Let's see if I can make it work now. Everyone in meeting. All right. Everyone in meeting is what I've selected. I'm going to double check again, make sure there's no one in the waiting room. There's not. All right. Now, if you see in that bottom of that window, there's a thing that says file. Y'all see the word file?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to click that. If I can figure out where I saved that image. I don't remember where it saved.
I'm sorry. And where was file? Where did y'all see file?
It's in the chat sidebar on the right side is where it opened up for me. And you'll see at the bottom, type message here, and it has 2.
No.
Next to that, there should be something that says file.
Okay. Not
Is
working.
Espinosa, are you asking a question? Okay. Do you see
No.
the word file?
Nope. I see invite, participant, share screen, chat, and I'm on chat.
Okay.
And I
You
don't see anything about file.
Do you see anything about where you can type a message?
Oh, okay. Way over here. Yes.
You
I'm
got
sorry.
it?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So one little trick for finding the screenshot is to go to where I opened it, and I'm going to grab the directory. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to hit file, and then I'm going to paste that directory here. And that's not going to work. So we're going to have to do it a different way. Okay, documents, Zoom. All right, so it saves that screenshot in your documents/Zoom directory. And then there's going to be a subdirectory for each hearing that you have. So I'm going to go into my documents. I'm going to go down to Zoom. This is why you're going to practice. There's the screenshot. You can rename that document. Now, I'm hoping that some of you are seeing it. Uh-oh.
I've got nothing.
That's okay. It's giving me a message that said it was blocked. So I'll figure out what that is. It's probably because it saved it in a format that I don't have authorized, which is on me. I have authorized JPG. I think it saved it as a PNG file.
Okay.
Let's see. I'll tell you right now. It saved it as a PNG. I will fix that as soon as we're off this meeting. So you'll click file, you'll select the file, it'll upload. When it does, it goes to everyone. If there's something you want to submit in camera just for me to see, Then if you see the word everyone, I want you to click it.
Okay.
And then I want you to find me in that list. Okay, now right now, we're gonna also show something else. Everyone pick someone, one person from that list. Okay? When you do that, it changes to the word privately. Does everyone see where it says privately?
Yes.
That is truly a private message. It is not recorded. It is not saved. I can't see it. So you can type a message there and send a private message to someone, and you'll see that it says from me to that person privately. Okay. Be very careful when you designate who you send that message to, because you don't want to send a message to the judge that says, this judge doesn't know what he's doing. Right? Or send a message to your client intended for opposing counsel or vice versa. So be cautious, practice with this, make sure that no one else can see this, right? Everyone with me on the chat? Let me tell you what I'm calling the chat. This is, okay, let's back up. Everything you can do in a courtroom, you can do in Zoom. Everything that you can do here. Whether it's tendered to the opposing side, which you can do through a chat file, a private chat file, whether it's refreshing recollection to a witness, or even slipping notes. And that's what this is. So I want you to think of the private chat feature as slipping a note to your client, or your client slipping a note to you. Now, I was asked by one lawyer, well, how do we know to read over there? Could be so many messages coming in. Say, yeah, I have seen all of y'all in court, and I know what you do when a pestering client is scratching notes and sliding them over. I've seen you do it. Stop, right? Here, you don't even have to go that far. You can just ignore the message, or you can send back, stop that, which I just accidentally said privately to someone. I'm not talking to you. I was using it as an example to the room. So I'm going to switch it back to everyone and say, that's where I would have said, stop that to my client. So you don't have to read it. I don't care whether you read it or not, but that's slipping notes. All right. If you wanted to tender something to opposing counsel, you'd go in, you'd select opposing counsel, you click file, you'd choose the file, and you'd say, Judge, right now I am tendering this exhibit to opposing counsel. And then you'll wait a minute. The opposing lawyer is going to give you the thumbs up. They got it. They looked at it, and they'll either say objection, no objection. Or let's say they say, Your Honor, can I confer sidebar with counsel for a moment? Okay. You may whisper, confer, meet in private with anyone from a room. I'm going to admit Jody Cole, who has just joined us. Ms. Cole, nice to see you. So let's assume for the moment that you have tendered an exhibit to opposing counsel. And let's say it's, who have we got here? Let's say it's Ms. Wilson and Mr. Escudero. Mr. Escudero has tendered something to Ms. Wilson, and she looks at it and says, Your Honor, I need a moment to speak with Mr. Escudero. We may be able to resolve this evidentiary issue. Here's what it's going to look like. I'm going to create a breakout room, and I'm going to select who goes into it. So I'm going to select Mr. Escudero and Ms. Wilson, and I'm sending you out into a breakout room right now.
Okay. All right.
Now, they're going to disappear in a moment as they accept my request, I hope. Okay, there goes Mr. Escudero, there goes Ms. Wilson. So right now, they are in a separate room by themselves. They're having a conference. I can send them a message that says, I will bring you back in how about in a few seconds, so they don't get confused. All right, so I've sent that message into their room, and now I'm going to hit close rooms. What that's going to do is it starts a timer. The judge wants you back in the room. You have 60 seconds to go, and the timer counts down. Okay, when it hits the end, it brings them all back. Now, what I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to divide everyone up and show all of you what it looks like. Welcome back. So now I'm going to create a new breakout room. I'm gonna close that out. I'm going to automatically have it assign everyone into a breakout room just so you can see what it looks like. So we're gonna go to automatic and I'm gonna put everybody in, let's go with 3 rooms, right? So let's assume you've asked me for a breakout room. I have granted your request. Off you go. And now here I sit all alone. Well, for those of you watching the live stream, I better bring them all back. So let's do that. The countdown has begun. Everyone in the room is now getting a 60-second timer on the screen, counting them down. And they'll pop back in as they wish. Here comes everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Ms. Cole. So I will tell you, oh, let's wait. I think there's a couple of people who still aren't back yet. I'm gonna close that window. All right. Let's see who's left. They've got about 20 seconds left. Here they come. Okay. Now, there's been some concern among the bar that judges can't be trusted with breakout rooms. It is true that we have the ability in Zoom to pop into a room. There's a little button that says join room, and we can step in and join a room. We can't secretly monitor a room. We can't spy on your room or record your room, but we could, if we wanted to, click the button and appear in your room. I will tell you, as part of my standing rule, I will never pop into your room. I will, if I need you, send a message into the room, or I will close your room on a 60-second timer. I will never surprise appear in your room to see what's going on. So I want to take that off the table. I think every judge has that same belief, but if you're in a hearing with a different judge and you're concerned, just say, I want to make sure before we break out that it is your policy that you will never pop into the room, that if you need us, you'll close, but you won't enter. When they say yes on the record, there's your protection. If they do, when you come back into the main room, which is being recorded or transcribed, you can say, Judge, I want to put on the record, I was meeting alone with my client and you popped in, which you said you wouldn't do. So I just want to make it clear that's what happened. Protect your record like you would if you were meeting in the lawyer's room or the library at the courthouse and the judge opened the door and peeked in and heard something they weren't supposed to hear. That's what you would do. So you do the same thing here. Everything can be done here that can be done there. Okay, let's see, what else have we got here? Why don't we take some questions and see where that leads us? So do y'all see the raise hand feature? Have you noticed the raise hand feature?
Where's that?
All right, let's make sure I can find it again. Let me close the chat window. All right. In chat, when you open that chat bar on the side, I believe at the bottom there's something that says raise hand. Now I can't see it because I'm the host. Do you see raise hand?
I do not.
I don't see it.
All right, hang on.
I've got chat.
Okay, I want you to click on the participants
Okay,
tab. Do you have a participants tab?
I see it. And right hand.
All
Raise
right, Ms. Rogers has her hand up. If you look up in the participants list, you'll see a blue hand next to her name. Now, I will tell you, as the host, I actually saw a hand appear on her image about right here. A little blue hand appeared. So I know that she has a question. The reason that will be useful for you is when you are in hearings and everyone is muted by the court, and the court has the setting on that you can't unmute yourself. And there are some judges who are doing that if they have too many people in the room, so we don't hear dogs barking and kids walking in and all of those things. If that happens, this is how you get the court's attention. You go over there and you click raise hand, and your little blue hand will appear right here. And everyone will know you have a question. So I have not turned on the mute all block. I'm trusting the lawyers to control their own mutes. But if it ever became a problem, if we had a client in the room and they wouldn't stop interrupting, that's what I would do. I would mute that person and keep them all muted until it's a lock, until such time as I'm willing to let them speak. All right.
That's good.
Who has a question?
What was the program you used for the map, to show the map and to write on the map?
That was a browser. That was just a browser. I opened a browser window. And what happens is when you share screen, go ahead, Mr. Escudero, carefully select a window that you're willing to share for us. Click share screen, and then go ahead and share it so I can show you where that is. And we'll let each of you do this as you wish, or you can open up your private room later and do it.
What do you mean select a window?
All right, when you hit share screen and you're on basic, it should open a little window that has every window open on your computer.
Okay.
So if you're watching kitten videos, that's going to be one of those windows.
Okay. All right. So I'll share my desktop.
All right. Now at the top, you should see some options for not view options, but there should be a bar that appears.
Yeah. I see annotate.
Annotate.
All right.
Now you can draw, you can write, you can do whatever you want. And then when you're done, if you see the word save, you'll be able to hit save.
Right.
And it will save it as a screenshot with all of the changes that you've made into that Documents Zoom subdirectory with today's date and meeting title on it.
Okay.
So when you're done, you hit end.
So if I pull up this document, I'm just wondering, if I pull up a document that's on my desktop,
we'll see it.
you'll see. Okay.
Hang on one second here. When you're doing this for your own protection, I suggest you go up there and you hit pause share before you start jumping around, because you might accidentally open something you don't want anyone to see.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Now we can see your cursor. We see what you see.
Okay.
So whatever you do, we're watching. So pause, call it up, and now you're there. And remember that, keep that right there. Go ahead and stop the share. Start another one and hit advanced options. And then choose what you want me to see blown up and blow it up for us. You'll see the box appear and it's green, right?
Okay.
You can adjust, and you may want to pause first. You can adjust the size of that green box, and then it will show me only a pop out. Y'all know what I mean by pop out? There are some programs where if you have a giant document, you highlight a square and it blows that little part up to the whole screen. That's what this will do.
I don't see a green box.
Did you go to advanced?
Oh,
okay.
I see.
And then choose portion of screen?
No, let me do that. Lost you entirely. Let me see.
We're still here. It's possible that what you'll have to do is exit screen share. And then when you choose screen share the next time and it opens that first window, move from basic to advanced.
Okay.
And you'll see it there.
Okay.
And everyone else can be doing that too right now. Just don't actually share it. But if you click the share button, it opens that window with all the different options.
Okay.
And then move to advanced. There you go.
Okay.
Now, when that box is yellow, when you're moving it around, it's not showing us. It's only when the box is green that we can see it.
So do you see a docket for Presidio County?
I do.
Yeah, Brewster County.
Brewster County, right.
What I want you to do now is I want you to just put the green box around State of Texas versus Jose Juan Hernandez.
Okay. I see.
All right, y'all see what's happening there? He can zoom in closer and closer.
I see. Okay.
There it is. Now, what we all see, Mr. Escudero, is a black screen with just that strip in the middle and I
As-
have everybody's picture on the right.
Okay.
So if you have a witness on the stand and you have an affidavit that you want to cross them about, right? If you put up the whole affidavit, what is everyone going to do? They're going to read the affidavit. So instead, open sharing, pause the share, put the affidavit on your screen, set the green box, and then reactivate, unpause the share. And then you can actually drag the box one paragraph at a time down the screen. And it will show that person just that one thing. Look right here where you said that the officer didn't arrive until midnight. But you just told us a minute ago it was 10. So what's the truth? Is the affidavit wrong when you said it was midnight, or are you remembering differently now? Let's go to the next paragraph. Everybody with me on that? It's
Yes.
much more effective than what I've seen people do, which is they've submitted it as an exhibit, and now they're trying to get that person to open the exhibit through the file thing and have it on their screen. And that doesn't work for people. This works great. Okay. So practice with that. Practice with that screen size option and just showing them what you want them to see. Okay, everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
One little tip about annotating. When you annotate, if you move the green box, the annotations move too, and they're lost. So once you start annotating, do not move the screen. Do not change windows if you plan to save it. You got to hit save first, and then you clear and start over. You can give a witness the ability to annotate, and I want y'all to practice with that with your friends. Open up a screen, put the map up. It works great like I had it. And then say to the other person, I'm going to let you draw the route that you took. I want you to circle the house. Where were you standing? Mark it with an X when you saw the shooting. And then you go to the top and you give that person annotation authority and let them do it. And remember, you can turn it off at any time if you're worried they're going to try to change it or delete it. Just turn off their power, screenshot it, and then turn it back on. You with me on that?
Yes.
Okay, more questions. What have you got? I know it's a lot of information. I want to mention one thing for my criminal defense people. We are going to be taking pleas through this system. There's no question about it. We're going to be setting them. You may not like it, but it's coming. What I need you to be aware of, and you lawyers need to work this out, is how are you going to get signatures on plea papers, right? My expectation is that the state's preparing those plea papers, and the state will be signing all those plea papers and then sending them through email or whatever you do to defense counsel. Defense counsel reviews them, sends them to their client, gets the client on Zoom or on the phone, walks through them, does everything you would normally do side by side in the courthouse. Then you've got to get the client's signatures on those documents somehow, right? It depends on the circumstances of where your client is, how you're going to do that. If you got a tech savvy client and they're at home or in their office, obviously they'll know what to do: print, sign, scan. They can do a digital signature. There's a lot that they can do. They have to get it back to you. You may have already signed them. That would be smart for you to sign them, send them to the client, have the client sign them, send them back, and then put them in our Dropbox or email them to Lori, whichever way you want to use. And they'll get to me for the hearing. So I am not going to be doing part of y'all's job facilitating those signatures. I'm telling you that is now an additional part of your job, just like all of this is now an additional part of mine. So figure it out, talk to each other, prosecutors and defense lawyers, work out how those things are going to be signed before the hearing. Because if you come to me and say, well, Judge, we're here, but we don't have the signatures and we don't know how to get it, that's not my job. I'm not going to do that. You also need to be aware of fingerprinting. You got to get fingerprints on judgments. If the person's in a jail somewhere, I think that's pretty easy. I think what you're going to do is send them to the jail administrator, have them print it out, and the jail will fingerprint everybody's judgment and their terms and conditions order. If they're not there, that's something y'all are going to have to work out. You know, if it's a probation plea or a fine only plea, and I'm looking at Mr. Escadeur's client sitting in his living room on his cell phone, you've got to get that stuff fingerprinted, right? This is not something you can let go, because a lot of times they're going to say, hey, I pled out, I've paid my money, I'm done. Yeah, no, you're not. And I need you to make that happen, because if it doesn't happen, I'm not calling your client, I'm calling Mr. Escudero. And I'm saying, why do I not have a fingerprinted judgment? I'm going to give you 10 days to make that happen, or else I'm going to consider recalling that plea, right? So I want y'all to work out how you're going to do those things with each client as part of your process of going over plea papers. And then we're going to be knocking these things out. They're happening already all over the state. So we're ready to get started. With the numbers we get from Hudspeth County and the number of cases we have, this is an opportunity, since the grand juries, I presume, aren't meeting.
No,
All right.
there's going to be 10 or more, so we can't do it.
This is our opportunity to catch up, not fall further behind. You know, we've got a lot of cases in some of these counties that can plead.
Yes.
In the 60 days or whatever it is that we aren't having grand jury meetings. Let's whittle that down rather than using this as a chance to build it back up. I just admitted Judge Rob Hoffman. Say hello, Judge Hoffman. Oh, now he's connected. Judge Hoffman, say hello to everybody.
Howdy, everybody.
Hello.
Morning.
Judge Hoffman has 5 counties in the eastern part of West Texas. I don't know how to describe that. He doesn't like me calling it Central Texas.
The Western Hill Country.
The Western Hill Country, which is all far east of us. So take that as a, okay. What we have here is we have 2 prosecutors, Mr. Gabaldon and Ms. Wilson. We have a CPS attorney, Ms. Dominguez there. We have some practicing attorneys with Jamie Escudero, Elizabeth Rogers, and Jody Cole. And we have a probation from me right here, probation department representative and APO, Clorinda Espinosa. I think we are pretty well close to the end of our meeting here. I've turned it over for questions and no one can think of one. And we have Marisol Skelton, who's not on camera, but I see her there. She is a 3rd-year lawyer with a bar card who has appeared in my court.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a pretty good, well-rounded group of everyone here.
Great.
What additional questions do you have for me? Or now that you have a different judge here, you might want to see if he does something differently that you're concerned about. So what questions do you have for us?
Judge Hoffman, where do you sit?
Well, we have 5 counties. Mason County is my home, but if y'all are out in West Texas, Kimball County, Junction, Texas is one of my counties, and I'm sure you drive through there all the time going to San Antonio and elsewhere. But we have a strange district that's skinny and tall all the way from, I like to say, from the Colorado River all the way down to the Nueces River. But it's not nearly as big as Judge Ferguson's.
Yeah.
And don't you forget it.
Yeah.
He's got Junction and Rock Springs, and then Brady, Mason, and the one I always forget,
Menard.
Menard. And Menard. Those are his 5 county seats.
I just had a case with that Sandy, Miss Wilson conflicted off of, and I had dealings with Tanya Alshwedy and her first assistant. And they were
Right.
both very, very pleasant to deal with.
Right. She's our DA, and we grew up together. There's one ranch between her families and mine. And then, of course, Mr. Lupton is a lovely, lovely person and does an excellent job.
He does. And I'm from Uvalde County, but I don't need to take up everybody's time telling you that. So
Well, that's okay. We know Judge DeBose as well. So
good.
Mr. Gabaldon, you had a question?
Yeah, Judge, I was wondering about fingerprints, and I'm still talking with a lot of different defense counsel to see how to get that done. Would the court entertain an attachment, an exhibit of prints? Currently, I'm thinking at least one example would be getting a certified copy or a copy of the booking information from the jail that has the prints that were taken at the jail and introducing that as an exhibit along with the plea paperwork in the packet.
Let me give that some thought, but let me remind you what the value of that fingerprint is. The value of the fingerprint is exclusively to the state.
Right.
It the only way it comes in is if you try to enhance with that conviction later. Otherwise, it means nothing to anyone else. And the defense attorneys would be thrilled to not have the fingerprints on that judgment. So, you know, if you tell me you believe that an official jail fingerprint card attached to the judgment as an exhibit that you ask the person about in the course of the plea, are these your fingerprints? You know, if you're satisfied with that, I imagine, and I'll let Judge Hoffman speak for itself. I imagine most judges are going to say, hey, that's your choice, because you're the only one, the state is the only one who will suffer if that's not true. I would prefer to see it on the judgment, but I don't, sitting here right now, think that I would say no to that. I think I would probably let you be hoisted on your own petard if that's what you wish. Judge Hoffman, what about you in your court? What would your thoughts on that be?
Okay, I was typing Elizabeth and no, but it had to do with fingerprinting. Is that correct?
His question was, if they can't, in lieu of getting the fingerprint on the judgment itself, if they got a copy of the fingerprint card from a jail or DPS, let's say, they attached it to the judgment as an exhibit, part of the judgment, and submitted that, would you allow that as, would you sign that judgment?
I think that might be problematic because, you know, the person in court has to be identified. The person that actually did the plea, who was in court doing the plea, has to be identified by their thumbprint. And how could you verify that the person who did the fingerprint card at the jail is in fact that person? So initially, I think there may be concerns, and you know, TDCAA is probably going to try to come out with some guidance for you on that.
You know, I would think that if they had to go to the jail or DPS to do it, they would have to show ID to fill out that formal card. So it would have their name.
But how you have, I think what the thumbprint on the judgment is verifying is that the person who was in court that day is the defendant, not the person who was at the jail doing the fingerprint card that day.
So if they had that card and they testified under oath, this is the card, I filled it out, I'm the one, that's what we were saying in the course of the first discussion we had when you were doing something else. They would have to be questioned during the plea under oath. Did you get this card? Are these your fingerprints, etc.?
But yet again, I mean, they're already testifying under oath that they are that person to begin with. I think, I don't know. Initially, to me, it seems problematic.
I agree that it's not ideal, but what I was telling Mr. Gabaldon and Ms. Wilson was the only person that hurts if you do it wrong is the state.
Right.
For enhancement purposes. Now, I will tell you, I had a case, and Mr. Gabaldon, I think you were on it. We had a case in Hudspeth where the fingerprint was so smudgy that they couldn't compare it. And that to me is a great example. They were not going to get the enhancement until the guy opened his mouth, I believe, and said, well, I know it's a mess, but yeah, that was me. And the lawyer said, stop talking. Too late. But I think that's a similar thing. If you get the fingerprint in a way that is not sufficient for the second court in which you're trying to enhance, that only hurts the state. It doesn't affect us at all. So
one question we had come in today on a different subject, which may be of interest to your CPS folks. You know, we were talking about a litigant in a family law matter that was not a CPS case, but one side was represented by an attorney, the other side was pro se, and compelling the pro se person to participate in the hearing. You know, if you have notice of the hearing, then you can be defaulted. It's similar to the issues we've been talking about with subpoenas. You know, how are you going to default someone who doesn't show up for an electronic hearing? And we have to be, I think, very diligent in making sure the notice to appear at the Zoom hearing is done in an appropriate way where some of those folks could be defaulted.
I agree with you completely. I think that's the reason that we are leaving to pro se parties in the Evite the line about the call-in number. Now, I will, you know, when they call in, I'm going to talk to them about that because you can't be sworn over the phone until the Supreme Court tells us that we're allowed to change the way it's properly done. but at least they would appear. And if they called in, and everyone has a phone or access to one now, if they call in and say, well, I want to testify, and they don't have access to a computer, then we're probably going to have to reset. Now, remember, again, for my CPS lawyer and my family law lawyers who do practice on the side, those strict deadlines no longer exist if the court doesn't want them to. So if I do an emergency removal and we have to have our adversarial hearing within a certain number of days, that certain number of days is now discretionary for the court. So I have the authority to sign an emergency removal and not set the hearing within 14 days, set it for June.
Yeah, and what we're doing in these cases is we're setting in, we have one pending out there set for April 6th. And on April 6th, if we don't have our hearing that day, we will enter an order resetting, but we'll make note of the Supreme Court's orders so we can, bootstrap it that way. And also, let me say, for those family law lawyers, and specifically with the CPS attorney there, the Children's Commission is working hard to get some guidance out. They've already published 2 bits of information. So on the Children's Commission website, there's a ton of information and links you can get some guidance on.
And some of that does cross over into the criminal arena because there are a couple of different areas of guidance regarding visitation, both private and CPS. And so when it comes to the CPS visitation, you can do it now by Skype or Zoom or some other way in lieu of a personal meeting. And that still complies no matter what the order says. Even if our order says you get to see him in person, there is guidance now from the Children's Commission and from CPS internally saying that you can do that in other ways. So I encourage you to find that. When it comes to straight civil from Ms. Wilson, Mr. Gabaldon, there's a crime for refusing to turn over kids for possession. Mm-hmm. The Supreme Court of Texas has clarified, and I put it on my Facebook page for those of you who follow me, that the schedule continues. Even if you have a lockdown, even if you have shelter in place, it is considered an essential function. So if you've got a dad who's got primary and a mom who's got possession, and the dad says, hey, there's a shelter in place, you're not getting the kids because I'm not leaving the house, that is a problem. That is still a violation. Shelter in place does not trump or overrule a court's visitation schedule. So keep that in mind. What other questions have you got?
I'm just wondering how I can get a shirt like Patrick's.
You'll notice that he's got his personal artwork prominently displayed.
Set up in my my studio here.
We're not fooled by how you've positioned yourself out of the center to make sure it's visible. Nice. And by the way, it's beautiful.
Price tag on there. Is there a...
It is for sale. Make him an offer.
I like it.
You're fine. Come here, fine. We get a 10. We get a 10. All right. Yeah, we've seen some funny things. We've seen some funny things happening in these hearings of people wandering through or yelling into the room, not realizing someone's on. That's another great reason to keep that mic muted. If you live with someone else in the house, you don't want to be embarrassed on YouTube for the world to see. I really want to, as we leave, I really want to encourage you to work together with your friends in the bar and practice. You don't have to have mock hearings. They're doing that in San Antonio and some other areas, these formalized mock hearings. We're not in high school. I'm not going to ask you to do that. But I do want you to just hook up with your friends and practice this stuff in the course of having conversations. I have not had anyone glitch out except in their first formal hearing when they can't fit. Well, I don't know why my camera won't work. Well, okay, where's that button again for sharing? That only happens the first couple of times you do it. So if you practice with your friends or your high school friends or whatever, you'll be polished at this before you turn around, and it'll really become a new normal. Mr. Gabaldon, your hand is up.
There we go. Our county is going to be saving the video recorded hearings, please?
We are not. Well, no, we're saving them, but you don't get them.
Okay.
We're saving them. The OCA wants us to save them just in case something goes wrong. What we are doing is we are putting our court reporters or court recorders, in my case, as a member. And I don't see Lori on here because she's doing a training for someone somewhere else right now. But there will always be a window that says 394. And what that is she has connected our digital court recorder into her laptop and is getting a digital signal. I'm keeping it as a backup just in case. What you will not see is us giving that to lawyers or litigants or the media, and you will not see it on YouTube. So it will stream live to YouTube, and then as soon as the stream is over, we go in there and we delete that stream. If you see one that is still up on a court after some period of time, probably wouldn't hurt to reach out to the coordinator and let them know that that recording is still up, so it can be taken down. The court reporter is still the transcript, and that's the way we're going to treat this.
I was wondering if in the future I'd be able to, call, some other Bear County, and instead of requesting a certified copy of a judgment, get a certified copy of video transcript of a plea.
That may be coming. I don't believe that that's in place right now. Judge Hoffman may have more information than I do on that, but my understanding is right now, judges are being instructed that is not anything that anyone can get. That is for our storage use only. And there are probably a lot of judges who aren't recording.
Right.
I'm recording this one. I'm going to leave it up on YouTube for a couple of days and let lawyers who want to watch and see the training do that. But you'll see that none of the hearings I've held are currently on that YouTube page. I've deleted them all.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Yes, sir. Anyone else?
Can't think of anything.
All right. We've taken up enough of your time. I will tell you that if you do have questions about Zoom, I will be happy to train people in any size group, even if you just have one problem you can't figure out. If I can't answer it for you in an email, you can send me an evite and I'll pop in and I'll train anyone who needs a little bit of help. I think all of the judges are willing to do that. This is a big change. And the truth is we don't know how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
There's a real political struggle weaponizing this from every side. But the truth is we are going to do our part because I don't want to be responsible for anyone getting sick. I want to make sure that the quality of justice remains high. And I'm not going to do anything to degrade that. But at the same time, I'm not going to be responsible for a lawyer or the lawyer's parents or the lawyer's spouse dying because I forced people too soon to come back to court for a hearing that we could have done this way. There's also the chance, I've heard it said in some of these meetings where I'm just watching, that there are people at the tippy top who don't ever want to go back. They want to make this an option going forward forever, even when we're not in a lockdown or an epidemic, so that we can plead people from jail where they are. We don't have to bench warrant someone out of the federal system and wait 6 months when we're trying to do a plea that slides under someone else. They want to make this so that we can better do our jobs in the future going forward. And I think that's a great idea. So I would expect guidance coming down before this is all over, telling us when we can use this discretionarily in the future and when we can't. So learn it now, get ahead of the curve, help your friends who weren't able to join us today, practice, and then let's start turning these cases over. You know me, I like to move those cases.
Mm-hmm.
So Judge Hoffman, do you have anything you want to say before we close out?
No, I'm hoping you'll be able to help me get my YouTube stuff going here in a bit. But besides that, I wish you all the best of luck. You have a great judge there to work with, and I know y'all appreciate that very much. He's a
We
great
do.
guy. You're fortunate. It's nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you all.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind words. Judge Hoffman, send me an evite and I'll join over into your room right now and we'll figure it out.
Thank you, Judge, for
Hey,
joining.
everyone.
Thanks everybody. See you
Bye.
soon.